I am back already. I know. I don't know what's happening. Thailand is inspiring me to record. It's like when I was writing my book, Love in All Shapes and Sizes, I literally, like when I tried to sleep, my head would start writing and I had to grasp my laptop really quickly to write my thoughts, and then a chapter would come out or a part of the book. And now I feel the same thing is happening with the podcast. So I was just having lunch and I don't know, I was listening to something and suddenly my head started creating this podcast. So I took some notes and I thought I wasn't even going to come back to my Airbnb. I was going to go for a walk, but now suddenly I'm sitting here recording this for you. This is my last day in Thailand. I have my flight tonight, and I'm dreading going to Belgium because winter has officially started there. And I never want to spend a winter in Belgium ever again. I promise that to myself that I will always escape in winter. But I'll only be there for December because I will spend Christmas there and see my friends and family. And then for New Year's Eve, I'll be in Peru for I don't know how many months, starting 2026. This week, I was flaky as fuck. And I want to talk about flakiness today. I've been integrating some of the grief trip, everything that came up, all the emotions, sharing 2 weeks with a group of 8 women, and now being alone in this Airbnb. I needed way more alone time, but at the same time, there's a dangerous balance there of needing more alone time, but then at some point spending too much time alone. So then I feel down as well. So then I need people, and sometimes it works, sometimes I find people to hang out with, but sometimes, like today, it didn't. I did want to hang out with people today. I messaged some people that I know here and no one was available, and also I don't have that much time either, so I just took myself out for lunch. And I want to go, maybe after recording this, I wanted to go for a walk, my last one in shorts and a top before I need to cover my whole body in alpaca wool to keep warm in Belgium. But I was thinking about flakiness because I have been very flaky this week. In Belgium, when we make a plan, we stick to it. Sometimes when you want to go for dinner with a friend, you schedule it 2, 3, 4 weeks in advance. Like yesterday, I scheduled, when is it? I scheduled to see a friend on, she's available on the 4th and then on the 20th of December. And we scheduled that in, which in my mind is absurd. I get it, and I do that when I go to Belgium. But luckily, these friends I do it with now are also more accepting and understanding, when we get flaky, when someone's not feeling well. Like, it's not a must, but at least we put each other in our calendars because otherwise it's not happening. Because Belgian life is, people actually use their calendars for their social life, which is a thing that does not happen in Peru. Like in Peru, if I pull up my schedule to write down that I'm gonna have dinner with a friend on Friday, my Peruvian friends will be like, "What are you doing? What? Why are you writing that in your calendar? Are you gonna forget?" The thing is that we have so many things going on in the evenings in Belgium, all these hobbies and things to do. I guess in Peru, I don't know, people just really don't use a schedule for social life. So the first time that I learned to get comfortable with flakiness in Peru was when I was supposed to meet a friend for dinner. And that night, right before I was about to leave the house, she said, "Hey, you know what? I'm on the couch and I'm very comfortable. Can we just go for lunch tomorrow?" And my whole system was a bit in shock, was like, "Oh, wow, that actually feels nice." Because you know what? I wasn't feeling well either. I was tired from work. I didn't really feel like seeing people, but I felt like I had to show up because in Belgium, we do everything to be able to show up when we've planned something, because then we feel bad about canceling, and then the other person suddenly doesn't have a plan for the evening, and the other person like could have used that evening to see someone else that they said no to, blah blah blah. In Peru, when this dinner got canceled, something else came up. Some other friend might have messaged me, like, hey, what are you up to? And then that happens. So it's not a big deal. In Peru, a plan is just an idea of what might happen that day. It's just an idea of, hey, here's an idea of what could happen that day. Maybe we'll see each other on Saturday, maybe on Sunday. You never know how you feel that day and when you wake up. So there's this idea of like, well, I have the intention of showing up, of seeing you on Saturday, but life happens and you never know how I'll feel or what will be coming up that day. So there's definitely space for that, which many foreigners get very frustrated by the flakiness in Peru. I actually like it because it taught me to really listen to my body. And it allowed me to really listen to my body, to know that, I feel kind of tired. I better not go. And I can say, I'm not feeling well, I'm staying home. And no one's going to give me a bad feeling about it. Because also, there's this thing when everyone always shows up, no matter how they feel, then when you cancel, there is that little, they might say, oh, yeah, I understand. But there will be a disappointed undertone that feels, I don't know, feels very awkward, because then in Belgium you need to reschedule, and you've scheduled it maybe 3 weeks in advance, 4 weeks in advance, and then suddenly you have to pull up your calendars again and find a new date, which is a lot of work. So that's why people prefer to just show up. And that evening you just leave them without a plan. Suddenly they have nothing that evening and everyone else is already occupied. So maybe they felt like leaving the house, but then no one's available anymore and they're like, shit. Or, hey, I said no to this other friend for you, and now you're not showing up, blah, 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 guilt tripping. So now in Belgium, I try to take things week by week. So I try to not schedule weeks in advance. Now I'm kind of doing it because I only have like 4 or 5 weeks in Belgium. So then automatically, if there are friends I want to see, I try to schedule them in. But usually I try to take it week by week. I do put some options in my calendar. Like I actually filled up my calendar yesterday. Let me check what's on there. Like salsa classes. I know every Wednesday in Brussels there are great classes. I have some like a housewarming that was scheduled, but I look at my favorite live music bar in Brussels and I see what they have. I looked at their calendar for December and I put some of the events that sound interesting to me. I put them in my calendar. Also a social dancing of salsa. So those kinds of things, or a jam session, I put it in my calendar. Not that I have to go there, but at least I know there's an option, even when no one's available to do something, or even when a friend says, hey, what are you doing that Tuesday? I could say, hey, I'm free. We can do something, just you and I. Or there is this thing we could go to. So these are all in my calendar because I prefer to know what's going on and know that I have the option to go somewhere versus being at home and suddenly feeling like I need to leave the house and not knowing what to do, which is also a reason why I love living in Cusco. Loved. Should I use past tense? I think I can stay. I still technically live there. I don't have my apartment anymore, but I have my residency and I'm going to be there for 6 months. So, I don't know. I think yeah, I don't live anywhere anymore at this moment. But that's why I love the life in Cusco, because there's always a million things going on. I always know exactly where I can go to bump into people and have a great time, but I don't have to go, right? I can still feel it out and see how I feel that evening. Do I just want to hang on the couch? Do I want to be alone? Or do I want to see people? And I really love that, knowing that I have options. Now, this is a bit harder with grief because when I think when you live by yourself, you have to really reach out to people and take initiative and every day think of who can I text? What do I want to do? If you don't have like fixed, let's say, weekly hobbies or weekly things you go to, you need to be very creative, and there's a lot of self motivation. So this week I felt very griefy, and in grief, this is even harder to do. So this week there were several days where it was just really difficult for me to wake up, where I didn't want to get out of bed. Then when I finally got out of bed, it was really hard to decide to shower. Sometimes I was just doing a bit of work in my pajamas. And it's especially hard on the weekend when you have a whole open day ahead of you. I think when you feel good, the days I feel good, it's easier to be creative and imagine, oh, I want to do this. Or, yeah, you just feel motivation and desire to do things. But when you don't and you have a whole open day in front of you, I had a really hard time with that in Peru, in Belgium, here, while traveling anywhere. While traveling, it's a little bit easier because I can just go on Get Your Guide, and not sponsored, by the way. It's a great place to find some tours. And that's where I found, I felt a bit icky, so I suddenly found like a sticky waterfalls tour on Friday, and then paramotor, which is kind of like paragliding with a motor thingy. It's weird, but I did that yesterday. It was great. So I can fill up my days with activities when traveling, which now makes me think I could even do that. Maybe I could get on Get Your Guide like in Belgium or in Peru, and just do something touristy wherever you are, even if it's in your hometown, just join like a cooking class or whatever it is. But yeah, I know it's a dream of many. I know friends who are moms and they are dreaming of that idea of having a whole open day ahead of you. But it's also really hard because you need a lot of self motivation. And I think when you're super busy and you finally have a moment to yourself, I don't know, either you have so many things in your mind that you want to be doing in that moment, and then you end up doing nothing at all, which that happens a lot with a lot of people, or you really make the most of it. I've always been that person who really makes the most of it, who has a lot of self regulation, self motivation, and I'm able to. I was, I still am, I guess, but this year in grief has been that part of me has been like gone, and I do feel, well, not really gone, but not there as frequently. I can't trust it anymore. That, yeah, it's not there always. So anyway, my social battery was very low this week, and at the same time I did need social contact, so I need to be careful to not isolate myself too much. And I love going to meetups, or that's why I go to salsa. Social dancing yesterday was awesome. I had so much laughter and chatting with different people and dancing, and I had so much fun. And I went there by myself and I left by myself, and it was, it was so great. And on Tuesday, Bumble and Field also happened. I had a date on Tuesday with, and I promised myself I'd be more open on this podcast, with a couple. So I that's something that's on my bucket list. I'd love to have a threesome one day. I feel like I would enjoy it, and especially with a couple, because a couple, I'm very touchy-feely, loving, romantic, and with a couple I feel like I would feel their connection and their communication, and their, like, there's already this element of caring and relationship, so I feel like I'd really enjoy that. I told you this podcast is called Shapeless Love for a reason, okay? And people who know me, I know my mom listens to this podcast. She didn't know that, but she knows a lot, so I'm sure I'm sure it won't surprise her that this is one of those things that I want to do. And I was supposed to meet with both of them, but I ended up only meeting him on Tuesday because she had something else, I don't know, a call with her family going on. And the moment I saw him, I didn't really feel attracted to him. But then we had a really great conversation, and like deep conversation is the way to my heart. So it can make me change my opinion from that first attraction. But we had a lot of synchronicities. I talked about it in my previous podcast without actually saying it was a date. But this couple, they they've been grieving over her brother, and they're traveling now as a reaction to grief. And they also left their dog with their uncle, and they want to travel no more, but they're not sure what to do with their dog. So we had a very energizing conversation, which I loved. And it's like, how crazy that suddenly these people come on my path and I have these conversations, which were exactly the type of conversations I needed. So, little bits and pieces of magic there. And at the end, we kissed because I was curious. I'm like, well, who knows? And it was a very good kiss, but I didn't feel like I wanted to be touched. So I talked about this, I think, in my very first episode on this podcast, the one that's called I Don't Want to Be Touched. I know the titles are triggering your curiosity, but I recognize that feeling now. First time it happened to me, it was very weird because I'm very touchy feely. Usually I love the skin to skin or even just a little kiss without anything more. I love that. But this time, or sometimes in grief, suddenly I feel like my body's rejecting everything and anything. And I think it's a somatic thing when I'm processing and integrating a lot of things, feeling a lot of feelings. Sometimes my body wants extra physical contact, and sometimes my body just doesn't want anything and anyone, and I just want to be alone. And so that moment, I really felt that rejection towards him of needing to be alone. And I respected that. I didn't tell him, hey, my body's rejecting you, so bye. I did mention that I had my jet lag, which is very true. I've been very tired in the evenings this week, so it's could have been part of the reason as well. But I just said, I'm jet lagging. I'm very tired. I just need to go to sleep. And Wednesday, we decided to meet up again, but with the two of them, and we went for salsa dancing. So I was going to go there anyway. They dance salsa as well. So it was very fun to just take them there. We had a little conversation, the three of us, but I also had some dancing with other people. And she was a very attractive woman. So I was like, oh, maybe we could do something. And it was a great no pressure way of meeting. But I had about like 1 hour of social battery and I ran out and I just really wanted to go to sleep. So they were like, oh, do you want to have a drink after this? And it was like 11 p.m. And I was like, you know what? That's also the thing about dating during the week. I hate it because I want to sleep before midnight or before 11 p.m. if possible for work, so I have my full brain energy to work. But sometimes I don't know why people, most dates, like all of a sudden don't care about the time they go to sleep. I guess these people are all coffee drinkers and then they just have a million coffees and go on with their day. I don't drink coffee, so I really need my sleep. And so I would preferably, sometimes the first kiss or the first action comes at 11 p.m. or midnight, 1 a.m. And I'm like, that means this is going to take like at least until 2 a.m., 3 a.m. before I go to sleep. I don't want that. Can the action happen at 9 p.m. so we can wrap it up at 11 and I can sleep before midnight? Please, thank you very much. So I just wanted to sleep. And then they said, oh, tomorrow, Thursday, if you're up for it, they had this whole beautiful plan of the sunset at a temple and maybe dinner. And oh, we could go to the pool of our apartment. And I was like, wow, here's this whole plan. And maybe the first threesome in my life is going to happen. So I was pretty excited about that. I said, here's the opportunity on a platter. And you should know that I've been trying for a year, not very actively, but I have been like matching with couples, chatting, trying to meet up for a year now, and it still hasn't happened. And my male friends are like, they cannot believe it. Like, here's a woman who wants to be the unicorn, and like, what? It's not happening. I know, I can't explain it, but I guess from my side as well, I don't know. But so here it was on a silver platter. It's happening. And then Thursday morning, I woke up exhausted, like past my limit of fatigue. I had had 1 glass of alcohol on Tuesday on that date, and then also 1 glass of margarita on Wednesday. And alcohol doesn't really agree with my body. I probably didn't sleep as deep as I wanted to or should have. And I think the fatigue from the grief trip, when I arrived on Monday in Thailand and I immediately started working again. And I worked a lot, many hours, because there was a lot of things to catch up on. And Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday were crazy. And then Thursday, I woke up exhausted. I could barely function. I could barely get out of bed. I could barely work. And so it was a very slow day for me. It all backfired. And some of you may know, with my chronic disease background and fibromyalgia, I have to really take care of my body. I need to sleep before midnight and not drink alcohol. If I drink alcohol, it could be on a Friday or a Saturday, one that I tolerate well, like with no sugar mixed with alcohol. Like, that's why I don't drink cocktails. And then I need to be able to just rest the next day and not have anything planned. So I sent something to the guy at noon and I said, "Hey, I'm feeling extremely tired today. The fatigue really got to me. Not sure if I'm going to make it tonight." I think, I don't know how I worded it, something like that. And then he was like, "Oh, no worries." La, 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 and then, or he did he answer? He didn't even answer to that. He only sent something, I'm checking it now. He only sent something at 5 or 6 p.m. And then he said, "Oh, our plans have changed. The pool closes. We're just going to be low key hanging at our place. No pressure at all, but you're totally welcome to stop by if you feel up for it." So I left it very open at noon that I was exhausted and I'm not sure. He left it very open as well with that no pressure at all, but you're totally welcome to stop by if you feel up for it. And then a couple minutes later, I responded and said, "Hey, I'm on my couch and I might not even leave the Airbnb. I'm not in the right headspace. I still feel exhausted." Um, and then I said, "Well, it would be great to show you around in Cusco because they're going to be in Cusco in like February, March." So we were talking about actually meeting up in Peru and I could show them, blah, blah, blah. And then he said, "No worries, I understand. A little earlier notice would have been helpful, but it's all good." And I was like, "Earlier notice? I thought I told him at noon." But maybe here's my Peruvian mind. I think this was my very Peruvian way of communicating. I didn't say at noon, I didn't say I'm not gonna make it. I left it open. I said I'll let you know, or I hope I'll feel better later. And then I kind of didn't. So I allowed myself to be flaky here because my body really needed it. And I said, "You know what? Okay, I really do want this to happen at some point in my life. It's on my bucket list. I feel like I'd enjoy having a threesome, but like it's not I don't even feel that attracted to him. I don't, I don't know. I feel like they'd have a different style as well from what we talked about. And I don't know. I shouldn't do it just because I want to have that experience. Like, if it happens, it will happen with people where I just feel very comfortable and great with and attracted to and all those things. So, especially when I'm not in the right headspace, that could have backfired tenfold, of just me not wanting to be touched, but then maybe wanting to continue anyway, because even now I could have felt like I had to meet up, because here they were, they had a week in Chiang Mai, they met with me on Tuesday, met with me on Wednesday, they paid my food and drinks, even though I wanted to pay their drinks on Wednesday. They didn't let me. They bought me a ticket to social dancing. So I was like, you know, I could have felt like I owe them some action, but fuck that. Because that's not the way we should be thinking. Many people feel that way. I used to think that way as well, very subconsciously. Like, as women, I don't know, there's something, it's not a conscious way of thinking, but it's a very, that transactional way of thinking that we have to let go of, because it's no. So, putting myself first and just saying, really. And I also in person told him that I've been, even like on Wednesday when they asked me to go for a drink, I was like, "You know what, I actually told him that, hey, yesterday after that kiss, I just really felt like being alone. I'm observing this feeling right now because I think I'm integrating the grief trip and feeling all the feels. and I'm just gonna, I don't know, I need to feel into this. So also, because he did, that was my response to his question if I still wanted to have an experience with both of them. So nothing wrong with all of this, right? Earlier notice, fine. But then I saw that they both unmatched me on field. And I was like, whoa, that's kind of harsh. Like, we're not gonna stay in touch, or there's no, hey, I'll give you all the Peru tips, nothing, because I wasn't feeling well on Thursday. And they were leaving on Friday, so we didn't have opportunity to meet anymore. Which, in a very rational way of thinking, I might understand of like, okay, there's no action happening here, bye. But my way of connecting is more holistic than that, whether it's platonic or it's romantic or there's physical intimacy or not. I'm very I'm very, what's the word, I'm thinking about long term or sustainable. A connection with me is often very sustainable because I don't know, I like to flow with it, whether it goes from being acquaintances to physical intimacy to then back to a platonic friendship. I can upgrade and downgrade, let's say, as much as you want, but what remains for me is the connection with that person for what it is, for the connection there is. So, in the episode about not putting all your eggs in one basket, I did talk about that a little bit. About in my romantic connections, I see it the same way as friendships. So, with a friend, when you meet a new friend, you're not gonna create all these ideas in your head and be like, oh, this is gonna be my best friend, and this is gonna be someone I'm traveling with, or someone I'll have daily audio messages with. We don't have all those illusions. We just kind of see where that friendship wants to go and how it wants to grow. And I'm the same in the romantic way and non exclusively. Just like, this connection doesn't matter if it's a friendship, if it's romantic, whatever it is, this connection can go where it wants to go, where the way we get along and what we feel like we can share together, whatever that wants to be, it's available. It can go even if at some point I stop sharing physical intimacy with someone, the connection can still continue. Versus with like the classic monogamous relationships, you break up, you're often not in contact anymore. And I'm like, well, how does that even make sense? That doesn't even make sense in my head, because here's this person that you get closer with than any of your friends maybe, and share even more with, and even share a space with and live with, and then suddenly they're gone. Like, that's very black and white thinking for me, and it doesn't, that doesn't work. So I have platonic friends right now that used to be dates or relationships, or I might get romantic with a friend I've had for years. Like, it can all just flow wherever it wants to flow, but I don't delete them or unmatch or whatever when there's no physical intimacy plan anymore. So that for my brain is hard to understand, because I'm like, hey, I'm more than the idea you had of a threesome. Although in some cases I do get it when I have something casual and we know it's just that and they're leaving, and sometimes there's no real connection or need to stay in touch. That's fine too. But still, I don't remember the last time I unmatched anyone nice. Because I'm kind of nice. I'm not a creep. I've only unmatched creeps, maybe, or people with a weird vibe. But yeah, so that's surprising to me. But anyway, we're all people who think differently. So far, only men one on one. So far, nothing crazy has happened. I might keep you updated on this podcast in the future. I'm a curious person, so who knows? And who knows how open I'll dare to be on this podcast. That's also the reason why I called it Shapeless Love, right? So my goal is to open up on a lot of taboo topics in life, in love, in everything, a life off of the beaten path. And even today, I jumped on a Black Friday deal. of oh my god, yes, OMG, yes. It's this platform that teaches you everything about physical intimacy and the experience, and something we don't learn enough about, something we don't talk enough about. I am more open now, and when I connect with someone intimately, I wish we were all just more open and saying, hey, this is what my body is like. This is what I like. This is what I don't like. Now let's go, you know? But there's still a big lack of that. So I'm curious. I love learning about all these things. But yeah, I have no idea. It's also scary to share it on a podcast because you never know who's listening. And especially if I share it on Instagram, then like, I don't know who's going to end up actually listening to this. Not many people, luckily, but who are those 5 people? I don't know. Who are those 10 people? I don't know. So from flakiness to threesomes. I was going to call this episode Allowing Myself to Be Flaky. That was going to be the title ish. Maybe I should change that to From Flakiness to Threesomes. It might catch your attention. Do I want to catch your attention though? Do I really want people to listen to this? I don't know. But I'm hoping, I'm challenging myself to open up about very different kinds of topics, because my whole life I've had several moments where I was like, what do people do in this case? Can we all just agree on something? Why do we not talk about this? What are others doing? Is this normal? What? So I've had so many moments in my life. I cannot even count the moments and the examples. And I wanna, maybe next time I have a moment like that, you know what I often do? I often ask friends. I'm like, hey, I've had this date and this situation. What do what do people do? What do you do? What's the common thing? Can I ask for this? Can I say that? Is that normal? What I do? This is how I see it. And then I get these reactions from friends going back and forth about it. It's brilliant. Those conversations are brilliant. So I might even take them to the podcast. Not my friends, but maybe anonymously, some of the opinions, the things they say or answer. I'll think about it next time I have a what the fuck moment. So thank you for being here again on this weird episode from flakiness to threesomes. And I hope I will feel as inspired in Belgium as I've been feeling here. I know many podcasts have like weekly episodes where every Tuesday they post something. I might start doing that at some point, but also I love flowing. I love going with the creative flow. All my clients are creative entrepreneurs, and I love that side of me, that creative side also just wants to share when I feel inspired. So you might get 3 this week and then none in the coming week. And I also like to publish it right after recording almost, or a day after, because the energy is fresh, because I know what I said and I shared, and I want to share it at that moment, and it doesn't make sense for me to share it like 2 or 3 weeks later because it makes sense for my podcast schedule. So but if you want to have a more regular schedule where you're like, oh yeah, it's Wednesday, Maya's episode is out again. I don't know if people actually reach that point, but let me know. Let me know. Send me a little message. Send me what you think about these topics, what you want to hear more of. Maybe you have a mental dilemma that you want me to ask people about or my friends about so we can open up on this podcast. In any case, whatever this turns out to be, this is creativity. Maybe I'm also really creative in my romantic connections. I'm just thinking, because I'm like, well, with friendships, I let it flow where it wants to flow. With my romantic connections, I let them flow where they want to flow. And even with the podcast, I let it flow where it wants to flow. And isn't that the beauty of creation, of creativity, of even painters, who start something and they don't know what it's going to turn out to be? Here's a big aha moment. That's the essence of creation and creativity. So thank you for being here again today, and see you when I see ya.